Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing.
Hey everyone, David Aragona here for another edition of the TimeformUS Road to the Derby series. 3 preps on tap this weekend. We're going to take a look at the prep race that might feature the most quality, but probably isn't the most interesting wagering affair, and that is out in California, the Grade 3 Robert B. Lewis Stakes going as race 3 on Santa Anita's Saturday card, and has been well reported at this point. It's just the Bob Baffert show, really a Bob Baffert scrimmage, as all 4 runners are coming from the Bob Baffert stable. He had 14 of the 16 nominees for this race, and he was the only one that decided to enter horses, as he will send out his quartet here. I haven't seen the morning line yet. Not sure who is going to be favored among the 3 inside drawn runners, but it does feel like Arabian Lion, Newgate, and Worcester could all be similar prices in this race, with Hard to Figure likely to be the outsider among the field, although he could be the potential pace setter in here. But yeah, you're going to be choosing from 4 Bob Baffert trainees if you're going to be betting on this Robert B. Lewis on Saturday. And before we talk about each of these 4 contenders, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector. And as I was mentioning, the number 4 Hard to Figure seems like the one that could be used as a pace setter in this race among that Baffert quartet. He is putting blinkers on here. He's shown speed in some of his sprint races prior to this, so you would imagine that he would go forward in here. The number 1 Arabian Lion did go gate to wire in his career debut, going 6 furlongs, so he definitely has the speed to be on the lead if John Velasquez decides to go with him from the inside. But he has rated in his last couple of starts, so we'll see what kind of tactics they decide to use with Arabian Lion in this Robert B. Lewis. And before we talk about these contenders, let's take a look at the TimeformUS finish projector, one of the new features in the TimeformUS PPs that have been debuting on DRF mobile PPs. You can tap on the TimeformUS tab to access the finish projector, and the TimeformUS algorithm is predicting that the number 2 Newgate is the most likely winner of this race over the number 1 Arabian Lion, and the number 3 Worcester. Newgate is coming in with the best last out speed figure earned for his second place finish in the Sham last time. So we'll talk a little bit more about him and that performance in just a little bit. But let's go through this field in post position order, and we'll begin with the number 1 Arabian Lion. This is a horse who was second in an optional claiming race 2 back at Keeneland, and we'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. And off of his debut performance, where he was pretty impressive, winning by 3 lengths, he was bet down to 3-5 favoritism in this race, and just lost by 3/4 of a length to Giant Mischief, a pretty talented Brad Cox trainee who took a big step forward here and subsequently came back to run a strong second in the Springboard Mile at Remington Park, in a race where a lot of people thought he was best after he got a rough trip in there. As you can see, Arabian Lion just didn't quite finish off that race as strongly as he had in his debut. But like I said, he was beaten by a pretty good horse and earned a strong 115 TimeformUS speed figure for that performance. And he was once again made the odds-on favorite last time in the Los Alamitos Futurity, when he was stretching out to this mile and the 16th distance for the first time at Los Alamitos. But things just didn't go right for him. He got a pretty good trip, was stalking on the outside, coming in around the far turn, but just came up completely empty as they came to the quarter pole, and was basically eased back to last by John Velasquez in the stretch. Not really sure what the excuse was that day. Perhaps he's a horse that just doesn't want to go these longer distances, but Bob Baffert's going to give him one more shot to prove that he is a Kentucky Derby contender as he tries this prep here. His pedigree can really go either way. He's by Justify, the Triple Crown winner, but his dam was primarily a dirt sprinter in Japan and a little bit in the US. So there is definitely some sprint pedigree on the bottom side here. And personally, he strikes me as a little bit more of a sprint type. So I'm a bit skeptical of Arabian Lion in this Robert B. Lewis. The horse drawn to his outside is the number 2 Newgate. We'll take a look at his runner-up performance last time out in the Grade 3 Sham. As we pick this one up in mid-stretch, you can see he's basically vying for the lead with the eventual winner, Reincarnate, and briefly looks like he's going to go by that foe at about the 16th pole, but Reincarnate gamely battles back inside of Newgate in the late stages, and Newgate just hangs a little bit in the stretch of this race, something that he had done in his prior race when he was trying to run down fellow stablemate Having a Meltdown in the Bob Hope. And Just feels like this horse hasn't really been finishing off his races that strongly. He made a menacing move around the far turn last time before we picked up that replay, going from last to second in about an eighth of a mile, but just wasn't able to sustain that rally going the mile distance. And he's another one that I think you have to question whether going the mile and a 16th is a little bit far for him. He was facing some really good horses when he tried it in the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland last year, but he was fading pretty considerably at the end of that race. So I think you have to be a little bit concerned that maybe this distance is a little bit outside of his scope, though he definitely is one of the win contenders. Just based on his recent speed figures, he has run some of the fastest numbers coming into this race. The horse drawn to his outside is the number 3 Worcester, and he is the lone runner in this field without a victory to his name. This was the best performance so far in his 2-start career when he finished a good second to his stablemate Hejazi. And this was just going 6.5 furlongs, so he's going to be stretching out an extra 2 furlongs here as he tries 2 turns for the first time. But I like the way this horse is finishing off this race. He's just got this steady style where he's able to keep coming at you, and he's making up gradual ground on that runner Hejazi as they crossed the wire there. And that was a really strong maiden race. You can see he got a 1:16 final time number for that race, knocked down a little bit due to the fact that the winner was setting a slow pace on the front end. But that 1:11 TimeformUS speed figure makes him very much a contender with the runners to his inside who already have stakes experience. And it does feel like among these 3 that are likely to vie for favoritism, even though he hasn't done it yet, Worcester feels like the one that is most likely to appreciate added ground, being by that Belmont Stakes winner Empire Maker, whose progeny do often appreciate these 2-turn route distances. Just feels like one that really is meant to do better as the distances get longer, and that is definitely the case in this Robert B. Lewis. So I think he merits respect, even though he's coming into this race as a maiden. And the final Bob Baffert trainee that we'll discuss in here is the number 4 Hard to Figure. We'll take a look at his race 2 back when he won the restricted Capote Stakes at Los Alamitos. Just not beating the toughest field in here. He got a 1:03 TimeformUS speed figure, which, as you can see from the numbers already displayed for the horses that are his rivals in this race, is just a cut below his stablemates. And he did try the 7 furlongs last time in the Bob Hope and got kind of a weird trip that day. He was pretty green moving down the backstretch. Seemed like he was trying to lug out under Flavien Prat, and perhaps that's why the blinkers are going back on in this race to get him to be a little bit more focused and run straight. That could also add a little bit more speed to his arsenal, and he has shown some speed in his prior races, so he figures to be the pace setter in here. It's just a little bit concerning that he's going to get the mile and 16th distance, given his prior start at a mile. He was fading pretty badly at the end of that race, and it just kind of feels like he's in here to make the race go. So it's not a 3-horse field for the 3 more accomplished Bob Baffert trainees that are in this race. So let's throw my picks for this one. And as you can kind of tell from my analysis, I'm most confident in the number 3 Worcester getting this mile and the 16th distance. I just think that given his pedigree and the way he runs, he's going to improve stretching out to this 2-turn configuration. I've got the number 2 Newgate second, just a little bit concerned about his ability to seal the deal, and I'm somewhat against the horse drawn down towards the inside Arabian Lion, but just not the most interesting wagering affair. No Derby points are going to be awarded in this race, as Bob Baffert trainees are not eligible to earn those, but we will learn a little bit more about each of these horses as they march on towards the Kentucky Derby in the Robert B. Lewis Stakes on Saturday at Santa Anita. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.